is One Leeds. Welcome back to the latest video. This video, as always, is sponsored by Shop GNO, The Job Match Group, and Match Bingo. Let's get into it. First up, The Job Match Group. Whether you're looking for your next big gig or just browsing, The Job Match Group has niche job sites made just for you. F1, retail, security, and loads more. They're about matching the right person to the right job. Make sure you check them out if you're ready to level up your career. Then we've got Shop GNO, an exciting new e-commerce site where you can grab exclusive deals and discounts. Right now, One Leeds has an affiliate link just below where you can score a 25 quid membership for free, unlocking special rates and benefits. You can even list your own shop on there with way better rates than Amazon, eBay, and Vinted. They've got some Leeds bits and some general bits now and launching soon, plus some great prizes just for signing up. This is all powered by a massive Leeds United fan looking to make waves in the online shopping world. So check them out and support your local. And don't forget our mates at Match Bingo. They're smashing it with footy fun. You can get 5 bingo cards for the price of 4 through One Leeds, and you can even deposit just £5 at a time to join the action. It's a big chance to win whilst having a blast with your fellow Leeds United friends. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Check the links in the description, and let's get on with the video. Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing fantastically well. My name is Conor McGilligan. This is the Rumour Mill. And of course, this is One Leeds. What is going on in your world, everybody? Let us know in the comment section below. The usual dialogue at the very beginning of this video. We have got a heck of a lot to get into this morning, everybody. And it's fantastic to see all the regulars. It's fantastic to see some of the newbies as well in the building. What's going on, everybody? I'm sure you're all excited. Whether you're going or you're not, you're just watching it on the telly. You're excited for the AC Milan game. Flipping AC Milan. Technically, you know, it's like a European trip, isn't it? You know, Dublin, well, it's only like 20 minutes from home, but still, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fantastic stuff. So listen, I'm thoroughly looking forward to that. Thoroughly looking forward to meeting a heck of a lot of you. And I would like to say, everybody, that it's not just going to be restricted on Dublin and restricted in and around England this season, this upcoming Premier League season. I am looking to be doing some watch parties potentially in your country. So let us know in the comment section below, where is the best place to visit? We've done Miami, we've done Tampa, you know, we've done Dublin, we've done Belfast. We're looking to escape to other places as well, everybody, whether or not you be in Norway, Sweden, Denmark, you know, Canada, and you fancy me coming over, sitting there and watching it with you and doing a little bit of a match review and getting in a nice pub as well. That might be quite nice. But yeah, guys, we are looking to do something with the patrons as well at some stage this season, meeting up for a curry or something like that, which would be pretty cool as well. So it'd be good to see all you guys in there as well if you want to help support the channel. But, you know, as well, just get in and involved as well. Check out our sponsors as well for this one, everybody. Shop GNO. You want to save money, you want to make money, check out the gang over there, everybody. And, of course, we're sponsored by Match Bingo. A deposit rate of £5 gets you £10 absolutely free with the season coming up. What are you doing? If you're not involved, make sure you check in the lads out. Hello, everybody. Come to Adelaide, Con. Flipping out. Well, maybe we'll go halves on there. We'll go halves on the flight, mate. How about that? Morning, Connor. Watching my first live. Great to see that, Robert. Love hearing that, buddy. Hopefully, we'll be signing the striker soon. Getting a little bit nervous. We've got a big show for you today. Isaac says, new background, Connor. What do you reckon? It might be. Just outside Ellen Road. It's a nice, though, isn't it? It's a nice little one. I won't want Harris in the championship. Calm down, Connor. It's 5 a.m. here. Wake up, my man. Wake up. Liam says, Spurs move El Khannouss with James Maddison potentially out for the season. Good morning, Connor, my man. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you in here. Good morning. Hi, Matt. What's going on? Danielito, hello. Jay says, morning, Con. Lots of positive from Saturday's performance, but also showed where we are lacking. Hopefully, it'll be a busy week, and some of the bits and pieces we are missing, we will get into. Morning coffee and news with One Leeds. Good to see you in here, Kirsch. Jem Campbell says, good morning, Connor. And hopefully, the injury list is not too serious, Bogle and James, especially. Kim Barner says, you are most welcome in Slagels in Denmark. Thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate that. I heard Connor was putting 5K behind the bar like Luke Ayling. Do you know that's the most viewed video on the One Leeds channel? I think we had like up 98,000 views on that video of Luke Ayling just in the bar, like, you know, pouring everyone drinks. It was good to see. It was good to see, to be honest with you. Okay, let's get into your latest news anyway, everybody. Let's get into it, shall we? So, Gonzalo Garcia, we saw the Real Madrid and Spanish sensation absolutely tear up the Club World Championship. We saw him play for Real Madrid, scoring around about 4 goals. I'm thinking about 5 appearances over there, looking like the marksman that Madrid need. Almost had shades of Raul in the late 90s and early noughties. Now, it was interesting development at the very beginning of the window because Gonzalo Garcia, you were looking at him and you were thinking, well, with that performance, there is absolutely no way Leeds United, Sunderland at the time, were going to be able to acquire his services. Real Madrid, Xabi Alonso and co had said, absolutely not. That is not happening. He's not leaving the club. We're going to be looking at putting him a little bit further forward. But it seems in the last week, there has been a little bit of a change in the guard when it's come to Endrick and when it's come to Garcia and who is preferential and who is going to be in that pecking order. And we see it very similarly, don't we, with the likes of Peru, Nemecha, Bamford, Joseph, who's going where, and especially a new striker coming in. So Garcia has been told, and his representatives have been told that he can go out on loan this season, which is an interesting development from the Madrid side. I didn't expect this. Now, the clubs that have been linked with him by name, specifically over the summer period, have been Sunderland, of which obviously have brought in Mark Gue, who appeared for them at the weekend, the Spanish player. They've clearly got a target market there, haven't they? Valencia have been named as well, but there is another club that has been named in the pursuit of Gonzalo Garcia. That is Leeds United. Now, the interesting part of this loan, when you read in Spanish reports this morning, a very good Spanish reports this morning as well, is that there is something in there which might irk Leeds United fans and might annoy Leeds United fans when you're kind of looking at the development. Now, Garcia, I thought he looked brilliant. He looked like a little bit of a poacher inside the box in the club championship. We watched a little bit of it. And his penalty box movement was very good. Knew when to feint, knew when to go to the back post and go to the near post. His movement was very good for a young lad. He's absolutely blitzed at Castilla level as well, Real Madrid B. I think he's got the most goals ever. So he's clearly got a lot of pedigree. Now, the thing that pulls me back a little bit from this is there is a recall clause that Real Madrid are apparently seen as a non-negotiable in Gonzalo Garcia's contract. And the reason behind that is because they don't know what the development of Endrick is going to be like throughout the season. So it gives you that turbulent feel of, well, if we are to go and get someone like Garcia, if we are to go and get someone like him, you are going to have this consistently in the background when it comes to this recall clause. I don't know about you Leeds fans. I'm not 100% sure I'd want that in the contract when it comes to our lead marksman. I'm not sure I'd want that. Do you know what? I actually thought as well, that was a little bit of sometimes this happens with the room mill. I actually thought someone had said it in the chat, Milk, and I apologize for this, mate. Someone had said in the chat that he'd signed and he was effectively playing for Sunderland at the weekend. I don't know if he actually has done that. So apologies from my standpoint there, mate, when it comes to Mark Gue. It actually looks like the deal has. I don't even know if it's done yet. 17 hours ago, he's set to formalise his loan switch. In my head, I might have just seen a couple of things on that. I've just seen what you've said there, Milk. Apologies for that, mate. Sometimes we get stuff wrong over here as well, especially when it comes to other clubs and the research on there. We are a heavy Leeds United channel, so apologies for that, mate. I genuinely thought he'd made the switch over and he was starting for you at the weekend. Yeah, a couple of people putting it in the chat as well, so I just assumed. So apologies for that, my man. There is still an opportunity, and that is the caveat to this, isn't it? With Sunderland being heavy on Garcia earlier on in the window, Gonzalo Garcia, there is going to be an interesting point of view now when it comes to him being available on loan, and obviously Sunderland being very keen. Leeds apparently being very keen. Farke likes him as well. But that stipulation in the contract is something of which I'm looking at right now and thinking, even from a Sunderland fan's perspective, flight was postponed, not cancelled. Deal is still on. New Sunderland fans arguing in the chat, which is good to see. But I think when you're looking at it right now, when you look at a recall clause, and if Leeds are dependent on a striker throughout the season, let's say he's got a certain amount of goals, he's doing really well for Leeds United. For us then to have that just hanging over our head, and even from a Sunderland's perspective, I'm not 100% sure that will be something I'd get done. Remy says, get it done. We have to develop him, but a top quality backup. I wonder if there's something that could be put in if they recall him. Endrick comes the other way. Yeah, righty, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd love to see Endrick. But once again, it's the development. It's a young lad, isn't it? How would he acclimatise to the Premier League? I mean, it is Endrick, to be fair, but I think we all know if Endrick gets injured, they are going to be recalling him. That is the issue. Quality's there, but would ideally want someone proven long-term at the top level than Garcia. Recall clause is a big worry. Milk says as well, from my perspective, the club wants him back. They clearly hold him in high regard. 100%. I guess it is a little bit risky as well. Jonas says, would love for you to come to Denmark. Love this show. Thank you, Jonas. And I'd love to come out, mate. Where should I go? Is it Copenhagen or is it somewhere else? Leeds fan says, Connor, if we signed him, he could only be recalled in January, couldn't he? He could have bagged us a lot of wins. Exactly. I guess, though, if he is your primary signing, that's a slight worry, isn't it, mate? It's the slight worry that he is your primary signing. You're going into January and you may be needing to go into the market again for a number 9 in January, which could be a little bit of an issue. Okay, let's get into the next rumour, shall we, everybody? So, Mateo, we're back here again. Okay, so crazy verbatim from the manager at the weekend, and I think with Farke, he's not far off the money when he was talking at the weekend. I thought actually there's sometimes when Farke speaks, and I'm a little bit like I'm not 100% sure I'm there with him when he speaks about certain things. But I think when he was talking about the 49ers, and we're going to get into that later on in the video, I also think when he was talking about Mateo Joseph and Pat Bamford, it was sort of right for him to do so and address the elephants in the room. But it is quite funny how he's gone to a period of sort of glossing and gassing up Pat Bamford at all opportunities. And to be fair, Mateo Joseph. And all of a sudden it's gone to, they're not in my plans. Yeah, I've told them this. We've had a conversation. I kind of like that ruthless streak to Farke. I do. Shout Kingy in the chat who I know is going to be in here. But he said, we cannot afford to have a player in the squad who is distracted or is not committed. He's definitely not in our plans, which is it's crazy for him to say that he's definitely not in our plans. It felt like there was a little bit of oomph behind that from Farke. So now it begs the question of what is the plan with Mateo Joseph? Is it going to be a sale? Is it going to be a loan? It feels like, obviously, with him not going on the Germany trip, obviously him not been in the squad with Spain, it feels like now Celta Vigo have apparently just stepped back a little bit, according to Spanish reports. Betis are the only club, but we know as of literally the 1st of August, reports from very close to inside Leeds United have said that Parag and the club still highly value Mateo Joseph and are not happy with the situation. If an offer comes in, it has to hit that value of which Leeds United are looking for, which when we were talking earlier on in the window, it was probably around about 13 to 15 million quid. We know from January, the only bid that has been really put to a standard of which Leeds would maybe look at and go, okay, fair enough, yeah, we can accept that, is around about 10 million quid in that January month from Real Betis, of which Leeds didn't want to sell then either. So it doesn't feel like they've got anywhere near to Leeds' valuation. Earlier rumours from the Spanish side, I have to say from the Spanish side, this is the rumour mill, so that they went in for an £8.3 million bid, of which Leeds knocked back. Celta Vigo were looking below 10 million quid as well. So they're trying to pull a bit of a short one on Leeds. Some might not value Mateo Joseph as higher than that. Apparently, people inside Real Betis think Leeds are being unreasonable. That was the word that has been used, unreasonable with the fee. I think Leeds United are doing their just cause and what they should be doing right now. They've learned from the lesson of Charlie Cresswell for letting him go for way too lesser a fee than what we should have done. And now he's potentially going to Liverpool or West Ham. And if he doesn't go this season, there's going to be a big move for him in the near future. You kind of look at Mateo Joseph and you think with his potential, with his upward trajectory, which I think we all believe he's going to be on, there's no way Leeds should be letting him go for anything less than 10. So harsh words from Farke, but he knows what's been going on within the camp. It feels like this saga is going on and on and on. But I do feel with Mateo Joseph that there has got to be this understanding, that it's, I completely understand that he's not played for Leeds, completely understand that his development, from my perspective as well, hasn't been great when it's come to the managerial choice, in my opinion. I don't think he should have been starting effectively all games. I'm happy to be put back on that. But I think maybe just the usage of minutes towards in the second half of the season could have been a little bit better. But it doesn't matter. We're promoted. Joel Peru got 19 goals. It doesn't matter. All in all, it's completely irrelevant to even bring that up, really. But the overarching point here is, I don't know what Leeds do with him. There could be a situation with Joseph. There genuinely could be a situation with Joseph where he just doesn't leave this summer, because Leeds cannot just go down on evaluation. They cannot say, "Oh, do you know what? We want to get him off the books. We're going to let him go for 6 million quid." I think that's what Betis are doing, and we're going to talk about the long game a little bit later on when it comes to Leeds getting transfers in. But they might be playing the long game, as Leeds will be playing the long game for some of their attacking profiles as well. Stephen has contributed £5. Thank you so much, Stephen. Really appreciate that, buddy. Roger Spence says, good day, Connor. Greetings from the Galcast. I still think a permanent signing for our number 9 Yes, I agree with that, mate. I still think Hamer would be a good signing. Agreed with that as well. Can play across the front line. And at number 10, Righty says, hold out on what we value him. And if he spits his dummy out, let him rot in the 21s. No one is bigger than the club, especially an unproven young player. Harsh, but I think true as well. Stephen says as well, Justin, El Khannouss, Callum Wendo brought in through transfer and get Garcia on loan and Solomon with a loan to an obligation to buy Connor. What you reckon, Steve? We'll get into that in just a little bit, buddy, but thank you so much for your donation as always, mate. Really appreciate it. I'm worried about the Leeds of recruitment. Elmi will get into that as well. Don't worry. Stephen says, just Joseph, 15K per week. So we stick to full loan with all wages paid, nothing less. I think that makes sense as well. You know, if there is a conversation right now between Leeds and Mateo Joseph, I think letting him out on loan, I wouldn't put an obligation in there. I would put an option in there. I think an obligation takes Leeds' bargaining strategy next season, depending on what Joseph has and is doing. It takes it off the table. I'd like an option in there, but a loan to an option wouldn't be a bad shout for me. But we have to be honest, guys. Like at some stage, Leeds need to bring a bit of income in. Whether or not that's Ilan Melier, who they're evidently struggling to sell. Whether or not that's obviously they brought in a little bit for Verba, didn't they? But Gruev as well. I can't imagine Gruev's going to be part of the plans, to be honest with you. The forward players, I don't think Leeds can be looking at getting rid of them when it comes to the wide players right now. I don't think so. I think they're going to be some of the key pawns this season. But then you've got to be looking at Bamford and Joseph, haven't you? So realistically, you're looking at those four players and you're thinking Leeds have realistically got to be getting some money. We know Charlie Crew's going to be going out, but actually accruing some financial capital. Leeds have got to be letting players go, and they've got to be getting this sorted pretty quickly. Guys, there is 1.3K of you in the building. Do us a solid and slap a like on the video. It really helps the channel. So thank you so much for your ongoing support. Thanks again. Okay, let's get into some of the news of which you guys, some of you will probably like going into the, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well, everybody. It's a bit of a packed show this morning. As always, we'll be putting the timestamps in the video afterwards as well, if you just want to go to a certain section. Also, everybody, this will be uploaded to iTunes and Spotify. Okay, so a little bit of an update when it comes to Thomas Frank and Manor Solomon. Now, obviously, we know Heung-min Son is going to be leaving Tottenham Hotspur. Looks like he's going to be going to the MLS. Why does that matter, Connor, what you're on about? So the whole aim with Manor Solomon this season, when it came to Tottenham Hotspur, was that in pre-season, Thomas Frank, new manager, had effectively said that he's going to give everybody a chance. It's a clean slate. Everybody gets a chance to perform. Loan players come back, and we'll see what happens when it comes to that. So you're kind of looking at it if you're a Tottenham player, and understandably from Manor Solomon's perspective, going back to Tottenham, not committing his future to Leeds at any stage, him going back and saying, look, can I have a go? You know, he's going to be behind Odebear. He's going to be behind Matthias Tell, Heung-min Son at the time. I'm trying to think of who else he's behind as well. Have I got it written down? Brennan Johnson's another one as well. So Frank was talking about Son alternatives, and he was talking about the players that are almost going to be given a chance. Now, this is interesting, I think, from Thomas Frank. He mentioned Johnson. We have Johnson, Odebear, and Tell. So we are not lacking in that department. Well, there's one big name that you haven't mentioned there, Thomas, and it is Manor Solomon. Now, a lot of the news beat is going around this morning when it comes to the Leeds United side of things. Is this a hint that Solomon will be leaving Tottenham Hotspur this window? He's obviously barely played for them in pre-season from what you read. And apparently, according to Team Talk this morning and a few other reports, Spurs Web is saying it as well, Leeds have renewed interest, and now Spurs are up for selling him for less than 20 million quid. And when you look at the Tottenham situation, they're really struggling to get actual market value for a lot of their players. I think 13 players have gone out that made 10 million quid. That is not enough. You look at Manor Solomon, Leeds United situation at the minute when it comes to Igor Paixão. You look on that left-hand side, maybe we're a little bit light if you're looking at Nonto on the right. And we know he prefers Solomon over Amazani. So you're potentially looking at a scenario here, and this is the long game, the game of which we're going to get into in a little bit when it comes to patience. Patience reaps rewards. Maybe from the inner circle at Leeds United, they were waiting for this moment. Maybe from the inner circle at Leeds United, they were thinking to themselves, look, if we can't get Igor Paixão, we might have a couple of other scenarios, but there is the likelihood that Manor Solomon behind all of those wingers is not going to get in. And we said that when he was at Leeds. You know, it just doesn't work, in my opinion, for Solomon at Tottenham Hotspur. Now, I guess the interesting side of things here is throughout the summer, there's not really been that many clubs that have been linked to Manor Solomon when it comes to acquiring his signature. It does just seem to be Leeds. There was a little bit of a murmuring of Burnley for a period of time. That didn't happen. But does that speak volumes as well that it appears to just be Leeds? Maybe that's because Leeds will, if we were to go for it, are the front runner. Or maybe it is just the fact that, when it comes to the top level, which Solomon's interested in and which his agents and his representatives will be, pioneering and pushing, maybe there's just not that much interest. I don't know. That is a conversation to be had there as much as that upsets certain people within our fan base. Manor Solomon, though, in your opinion, and we're going to get it in a poll in the chat as well. I want to get all of your thoughts. I'm not going to, give you my thoughts and just chomp along and say, look, this is what you should be thinking. So that's what we don't want on the channel. We want a little bit of discourse, debate, and discussion on the One Leeds. I was about to say One Leeds fan channel there, but on the One Leeds channel, what we're going to do now, everybody, get your thoughts in the comment section below when it comes to the poll. I want you guys interacting. Okay, get it in on the poll. Do you want Manor Solomon? A simple yes or no. Would you have Manor Solomon back this season? And we will have a look at the poll in just a second. So Manor Solomon, I'm literally just going to put yes or no. Dead simple. Doesn't have to be any context applied to this one, even though we love the context. I want to hear what you guys are saying in the chat with regards to this one, with regards to, who we've been linked with in the past, what you guys make of those signings as well, in terms of that is the caliber of player that we should be going for, or do you think Manor Solomon fits that? Let's have a quick look at what some of you guys are saying in the chat. Interested though. Interested to hear the old split here, if there is a split. Solomon says Darren would be a good loan move for us. Adam says Solomon is always injured. 15 to 20 million Northern Club Anthem says, and it is a good move for me. Dazza says the 49ers need to start moving on. Yep. Robert Wilson says Solomon's pace concerns me for the Prem, especially on the wing. Do you think he'd be better as a number 10? I don't think so, mate. I think Solomon would be coming in as that left winger, if I'm honest with you. Leeds fan says no to Solomon. Great in the Championship, but we aren't in that league anymore. Richard Bradley says Solomon did a great job last year. He is Prem proven at Fulham. He lost his opportunity at Spurs because of injury. It's not a bad shout for 10 to 15 mil. All I'll say, pushing back on that, Rich, is what do you mean Prem proven, mate? Do you mean that in terms of goals scored? Because it didn't really work out for him at Fulham. Let us know what you think in that situation, mate. Okay, let's have a look. Solomon on loan. Is Solomon the caliber we're looking at? Bottom three, here we come. CJT says, I voted no. I love the guy for last season, but comparing other targets, he's a drop-off comparing. I guess that's what Leeds fans are naturally going to do as well. And what I've kind of done as well. And once again, we're going to talk about that markup towards the back end of the video. So stick around, everybody, when we've got into the other rumours. But we're going to talk about the markup. And in the DDD towards the end of the video, we're going to be speaking about why maybe the subjects that we've been going after are now clouding a little bit of these other targets that we've been speaking about maybe earlier on in the window. People were talking about, I was talking about, wasn't I? Hamer earlier on in the window. I've been speaking about Loriente as well at Sassuolo. People have been talking about Manor Solomon. Have some of these targets been quashed a little bit by the expectation and the standard that some of Leeds' key links have we've had this season, and some of the players that were brought in as well. Chris is brilliant in the champ, but failed at both Spurs and Fulham. Not wanted by a club that finished 17th last season. If we wanted him, we would have had it done by now. I'm not sure about that, Chris. And once again, the context is going to come to the fore at the end of the window. I don't think it's always a case of if we want a player, we have them done early. And that's never been the case with Leeds United, especially when you look at some of our key personnel last year. I think, as Angus Kinnear has said plenty of times when it comes to Leeds United, Leeds do wait on these market opportunities. And I think, once again, it's not just us. You've seen that with some of our outgoings. I think the likes of Real Betis are waiting for that market opportunity when it comes to Leeds United. Maybe Leeds United have been waiting on that market opportunity. At one point in this window, Thomas Frank was saying he was going to give everybody a chance. But we are now at a point in the window where Thomas Frank verbatim is talking about every single winger barring Manor Solomon. And he's a very specific, precise, analytical individual. So I don't believe that was a mistake. Tottenham, as I've just mentioned previously as well, 13 players have gone out. They've made 10 million quid. They need to accrue some money at some stage. If you're talking about potentially a desperate Leeds at some stage, which I'm not saying we will be, but when you're looking at a Leeds United that want a player in at some stage, we might be willing to pay the negotiated fee of which Tottenham were talking about all season. Upwards of 10 million quid. They wanted more than that, didn't they? So failed at Fulham. So much that Spurs brought him, talking rubbish. Good enough for where we. So much the Spurs brought him talking rubbish. Good enough for where we are now. Okay. Farke has issues with Ramazani. I like Solomon for what he did. Last season proved a lot wrong, but it's too big for me. Solomon doesn't cook in the Premier League. Let's have a look at what the poll's saying as well in the chat. This will be interesting. Poll is normally indicative of where we're at when it comes to a fan base over here anyway. So let's have a look. So we've got yes, 58% of you would bring Manor Solomon back, which means obviously you've got 42% who've said that they wouldn't be bringing Manor Solomon back for the upcoming season. Interesting. But there you go. We've had 500 votes in there, and around about 60% of people are saying that they want Manor Solomon back next season. So there you go. And we'll take that down, everybody. We'll move to the next poll in just a bit, I'm sure. So there you go. The fan favorite, Mr. Manor Solomon. And a lot of you guys are saying that you like him on the returnee, which is fair enough. Football is subjective as always. Right, let's have a look. Has the Hamer links disappeared? He played 10. He played 10 and out on the left last season. We're not seeing that much Nige anymore, to be honest with you. Immortal Reaper says Devad Sheila. Yeah, I'm not sure we'd ever be going near him, mate. But to be honest, Knox is not a quality operator, by the way, but I think he's got the whole of Europe looking at him, if not this window, definitely the next window. So sit tight and we'll come for your next window, if that makes sense. I still think Liverpool are one to look at with him as well. Sujal says, I am not a great football analyst. Bless you, Sujal. Don't worry about that, mate. You don't need to be. I'm not a great football analyst like many of you guys, but I feel Ramazani is even better than Somerville. I wouldn't disagree with that, mate. Wouldn't disagree with that. And if anything, it's very close, isn't it? So let's get on to the next room, shall we? Okay. Rodrigo Muniz, as I flip my page. Now, this is obviously the hot topic, the hot conversation with Leeds fans consistently on the rumour mill. Now, it's interesting when it comes to Leeds United. It's interesting when you look at the latest reports. Now, the latest reports are that Atalanta are in for him and are now considering a move early this week. They're considering a move for Rodrigo Muniz. They want to bring him in as part of their arsenal. There's no way Atalanta are paying that sort of money. It's just not happening in Serie A at this point. Now, would Rodrigo Muniz want to move there? And I have to be honest. I still think with Muniz, it's between us and Fulham. I still believe that. And I'm going to tell you why. Now, if you watch Serie A, everybody, it's as surprising as Gianpaolo getting Serie A jobs when you look at Ivan Juric. It is unbelievable after the job that he did at Roma and the job that he did at Southampton that he somehow managed to be the successor to Gasperini at Atalanta. It's staggering. Ivan Juric is not a pull whatsoever. He's an awful manager, in my opinion. He's rigid. He's got no tactical flexibility, and he's stuck in the mud when it comes to any form of pragmatism. I don't like him as a manager whatsoever. Now, with Atalanta coming in for him, I think always the big pull for Atalanta was Gasperini. I think he's a massive pull. He got them to where they were when it came to Europe, when it comes to an unbelievable fluid style, and he developed so many young players, which we can talk about when it comes to Adamola Lookman, to others. So when you're looking at Atalanta coming in, I don't think they'd be able to afford him. And B, I don't think Ivan Juric is any sort of pull whatsoever. And I think he's going to drag Atalanta down into the mud. So I'm not fearful of them, really. You look at Newcastle in the picture. Yeah, maybe last week, but now with the Benjamin Sesko news coming a little bit more ever present and them going towards that final deal, it seems to be in around 75 million quid, of which Newcastle are going toward. Apparently, they've received some encouragement as well. They met with Brentford representatives on Saturday evening about Johan Visser. Why is this important? Because Rodrigo Muniz is apparently their fourth choice with Newcastle. We know we can't compete with them at this moment in time when it comes to, validity and being established at Premier League level. And obviously then being Champions League. So he's kind of looking at it right now, and I don't think Newcastle are going to go for him. There might be, we keep going on about this opportunism, towards the back end of the market where someone says, we're going to throw 50 million quid down them because they're panicking, aka Man United at some stage. That would not surprise me because it's Man United is what they do. There's no prepared planning there. They're going to overpay, and it wouldn't surprise me when it comes to that, especially if they missed out on Sesko. They're probably going to go for very similar targets to that of what Newcastle had. Rodrigo Muniz as well helps them out of a low block, a mid block. I think that works, to be honest with you. So that would be a problem. But I'm convinced that doesn't happen. I'm still convinced they're in dire straits when it comes to any sort of monetary output. And I don't know how they've afforded the deals that they have, but I don't think it's going to extend that much further. So I do believe that logistically, it is still probably between Leeds and Fulham. And, Atalanta being in there is the latest rumor. It doesn't really mean that much to me. I think the beauty of Rodrigo Muniz is that he outperforms his XG, very similar to that of Liam Delap. We're all looking at Liam Delap at Ipswich last season. He got, what, 12 goals from 8.36 XG, which is outperforming his XG. I think you look at someone maybe on the continent, and I don't think we'd be able to get him. But this is someone who we've spoken about the rumour before when it comes to Mika Bjerith. He was obviously former Arsenal product, sold in the summer to Sturm Graz, and then moved on to Monaco. He's had an unbelievable period at Monaco. Instinctive striker, way above his XG, performing way above his XG when it comes to his output this season for Monaco. I think when it comes to his shot variety, he looks very good as well. Strong, pacey. Maybe will be better in a team that controls possession. When you look at his sort of I wouldn't even say variety of clubs. We're looking at Monaco and how dominant they can be when it comes to obviously the French league with others. Then you're obviously looking at Arsenal when he was part of their setup as well, dominant in possession. I wonder how he'd work in a low block counter-attacking style, which Leeds are going to, put out there this season. But he'd be one that I'd definitely look at. And he's someone who is a little bit equivalent to this guy, when it comes to outperforming his XG. If you to look at players of which are very similar, I don't think we'll be able to get him, but potentially if the Leeds are willing to go up to 40 million quid, we could do that with Biereth. But who knows? But Rodrigo Muniz, Atalanta are in for him now. I don't think anything will happen when it comes to Atalanta, to be honest. And obviously, even Juric going there is comical. But for me, yeah, I think that's a really good point as well with JB. You've mentioned Strand Larsen. I think that's a really good good comparison. To be honest with you, mate. Otis says, "How do we know our interest in Muniz is high when nothing has been confirmed?" Well, there was a confirmed bid, Otis. We put in 32 million quid for him, so that would suggest to me that our interest is pretty high, and there's not really been any sort of circulation of any news of us going in for anyone else. So I would suggest that Leeds are playing the long game with Rodrigo Muniz. If you are to still believe reports in around Fulham, Leeds are still there. I think it's between us and them, to be honest with you. Armand Calamuendo, Ren apparently linked at the weekend. I like this one, Connor. Do you think? Yeah, it's just going to cost Leeds a lot of money, mate. And I think when you look at it overall, I'm not 100% sure that Leeds will be able to get in with the competition that's out there when it comes to the pecking order. Mike says patience is key with Muniz. Like that, we haven't withdrawn our bid for Muniz. Let him stew on it and flirt with his off free agency, thus forcing Fulham's hand and dropping the price to cash in. Potentially, yeah. And you look at Ricardo Pepi, he could be one that Leeds go in for, the American at PSV right now. Really good, once again, turn of pace, good in a transition. He's one who Fulham would look for as an alternative. Could Leeds maybe look at Ricardo Pepi? That's something me and Gabe have spoken about plenty of times. When his name came up for Fulham, I thought we'll just get a couple of his stats up here. But in terms of a personnel, in terms of a player, Ricardo Pepi I think he'd be a really decent addition. When you're looking at his profile and who Fulham would be going for, and a lot of the US men's national team are in the chat as well. We know a lot of the US players would absolutely adore a Premier League move. Is that someone we could go for? In the Eredivisie, is that someone we could move for? As an alternative to Rodrigo Muniz. And when you look at Fulham, that would be their next target if they lost him. So something to consider there as well. Let's have a look at the chat. Pepe is another one that would be good for us. Yeah, maybe that's someone that we just said, mate. Daz in the building. Now, Daz. Carl says, worry for me is that by the time the window closes and we finish on the last day with signings, we may have lost all of our games. Rather get the squad completely done before Everton. Wayne says 40 million for Muniz plus 20 million for Solomon, then job done. I'd prefer at least another fullback if I'm honest. Chris says he's been starting in pre-season and playing a lot of minutes. I think he's staying at Fulham, unfortunately. Yeah, it does feel, I can't help thinking, but it is the patient game. I agree with that. But I can't help feeling with Rodrigo Muniz that it stinks of Ben White. I've said this to you guys on the streams before, on the watch along, on just the streams in general. It feels very Ben Whitey. I don't know if you guys get that vibe, but that's kind of where I'm at with it, to be honest with you. I think this wouldn't be a bad shout with what Nigel just said. I genuinely believe as it's getting closer, and I'm sure a lot. And in fact, should we get a chat? Let's get a poll going. Let me know. This is what I want to hear from you guys. Would you go for this in the chat? Genuinely, this is one of which I think is going to. Some Leeds fans might think, he's not what he was. I tell you what, Get in the chat. That would be something that I would be looking at. I think Nige makes a really good point here. One of the patrons, good lad, Nige. Mitrovic on loan. Would you go for that, Leeds fans? Would that be someone who you would be interested in terms of that hold-up play, that bully? Obviously not been in the Pro League that long. Still performing at a top rate, even though it's out there. But, Cristiano Ronaldo's telling us it's getting up to the 4th, 5th league in the world right now. 19 goals, 2 assists. I would 100% take Alexander Mitrovic. 100% take Alexander Mitrovic. Get some of those stats as well. Goals per 90, 0.89. I understand it's the Premier League, but he's done it in the Premier League before. High wages. Yeah, that is the issue, isn't it? 400 grand a week. But apparently with Mitrovic, he wants to move back to the Premier League. Could Leeds United be the option? But yeah, 400 grand a week would be a stipulation, wouldn't it? It'd be a slight issue. But Ricardo Pepi could be one. Definitely, he's not going to be demanding that sort of fee. But let's have a look at what the poll's saying as well. Yes, 66%. Obviously, I presume the no's are very much on the level of no's because of the wages. But just as a player, let's play a bit of Football Manager, shall we? But Mitrovic. Oh, Richard Bradley. Look, but you're all coming in. This is why I absolutely love the One Leaders. You're absolute demons when it comes to names. What an Right, we're going to have another poll. This morning's going a bit rogue, but I don't care. It's quite, I don't know. For some reason, I'm excited this morning. Another one in the chat. A lot of you take Mitrovic. Another one that I'm putting in there now. Rasmus Højlund. Now, I've made my thoughts clear on this guy. I think this guy is a terrible striker. I think his movement's rubbish. I think his reading of the game's terrible. But at some point, Rasmus Højlund wasn't a bad player. That's his tally, which, to be honest, I thought would be even worse. But 1 goal in 5, really, for Man United. Would you take him for 30 million quid? I'd go Højlund. Finn's talking about a 30-year-old 1-year contract with Mitrovic. No. Mitrovic is a you-know-what house, and I'd love it. No chance Mitrovic coming here. Why would his Saudi club allow it? Apparently, he wants to move back to the Prem, mate, if you're to believe reports. Mitrovic head is scrambled. I'd take it. I'd take a scrambled head, to be honest. Højlund getting spoken about a lot. On Wacko, if you value that. No. Well, to be fair, they do put a few good things out there, don't they? But yeah, Rasmus, let us know in the chat. Would you be taking him? Let's have a look. 70 would say no. I've got a feeling that's because of the link. I've got a feeling that, but yeah, 300. He's absolutely awful. He can never finish. Yeah, he's not great. He isn't great. He wouldn't be my number one choice. I wonder in transit Leeds. The thing is, everybody, what you got to think of when it comes to like Rodrigo Muniz. I've mentioned Liam Delap at Ipswich outperforming his XG. We mentioned Ricardo Pepi as well. When you look at a lot of these players, when we talk about outperforming your XG, the reason why that's important is because chances for Leeds United are going to become few and far between. They're going to be few and far between. This is really, really important that when the chance happens, or when it's a really difficult chance, which XG marks it down as, we have to have our number 9 who's able to put it back in the back of the net. That's why I talk about a variety of finishes when it comes to strikers. Yeah. Fox in the box, someone who's instinctive, left, right foot, someone who's got really good movement, someone who's good in the air, someone who can feed off transitions and get themselves into really good goal scoring positions, someone who's good at long striking. That's why someone like Pajau was incredible, because he would outperform his XG, because he'd score screamers. He'd score goals of which you're thinking they're never going to go in. That's no chance. And that's the same thing with Rodrigo Muniz. He outperforms his chance rate. Same with Liam Delap last season when we're talking about that. He's a sort of player that keeps you up. It was just Ipswich's other recruitment that was terrible. So maybe that with Højlund is the problem. It's his XG conversion, which isn't great. Okay. Okie dokie. Let's get on to it, shall we? Not too much in the way of rumours around this guy. More clubs have been added to the pile. Obviously, the reason that we've got Leeds down there as a high interested club is obviously because Leeds are apparently, according to latest reports, there's actually been a valuation in terms of the contract agreement that's out there, or not agreement as such, what Leeds are talking about. Apparently, Leeds United are taking into consideration tax and all these bonuses and stuff, are going to be offering Bilal El Khannouss in the package around about 50k a week, according to latest reports. Leeds are willing to meet the release clause of Bilal El Khannouss. Something to bear in mind that release clause does expire on the 15th of August, which would mean that Leicester can effectively say, well, no, we want 45 million quid for him. Leeds, apparently, according to reports today and yesterday, and just over the weekend in general, have held really positive talks with his representatives and Leicester City. Leicester, Leicestershire Live as well are reporting that Leeds are one of the keen clubs in for him. But there are a hell of a lot of clubs in for this guy, and this is why I have to say, everybody, I know it's subjective, but I can seriously disagree with people. It does make me laugh when people just say things like, "Well, he's been relegated, so he's crap." No context, just that he's been relegated to his crap. You look at the clubs and the caliber of teams that are in for this guy. I was speaking to a Leicester fan over the weekend. This Leicester fan said to me, and we had another one on the watch along who's a keen member of the channel, and he said, "Connor is top six. He's a top six quality player. We just didn't have enough in and around him. We didn't facilitate his play enough." So you look at the clubs as well: Tottenham, Leipzig, West Ham, Monaco, Valencia. If he's not up there, then I wonder, I wonder why all these clubs are looking at him. So Leeds look like they're a little bit more advanced in terms of actually negotiating from what's publicly outward right now in terms of negotiating with Bilal El Khannouss, I should say, and his representatives, and Leeds are actually willing to meet his release clause. So how I would view this is Leeds United are probably going to activate that at some stage if they're willing, and there's public reports stating from Leicestershire Live and abroad and all this sort of stuff that Leeds are willing to meet his demands. We've seen it with Graham as well, who said that we've inquired and Leeds are serious about Khannouss. And we've mentioned, the Athletic have mentioned before, that they're not active on the El Khannouss deal when we were in for Igor Pajau. So not being active on a deal, in my opinion, means that maybe he's second in regard to Igor Pajau. So now that Pajau deal is done, that would make you think that Khannouss is the one that they're moving on. It would make a lot of logistical sense. There's a release clause there, which expires in 10 days. So Leeds are going to have to do that quickly. If you are to look at that release clause, you are to look at Leeds United in verbatim when it comes to many reports being suggested on the lines of they're going to meet, or they're willing to meet that release clause, then that would suggest that with 10 days left, Leeds are going to have to move on this quickly. And if Leeds do move on this quickly, there is probably a likelihood that it begins this week. You're suggesting, the latest game's gone. Leeds could have been working over the weekend from what you're reading on the rags at the minute. They've had positive talks with Leicester, positive talks with his representatives. So I'll have to wait and see on that one. Danky says, Connor is a very tidy player, but he's got a lot to do to be a top six player. Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Brother was an LCFC season ticket holder. Beck not good enough, too young and lightweight, very inconsistent, big risk. Okay. How about as a rogue shot, Jackson from Chelsea? Chelsea want him out. Could be a deal to be done there. Not saying we have a chance, but if you don't ask, you don't get. That is true, Jay, and I'm sure they've been looking at bits like this. It's strange how people just like make up what you say. Then risky decent squad. We'll just remove that one. Let's not lie on air, mate. Yeah, we're not in the game of liars. Okay, if you're gonna quote me properly. None of that was said. Marquee signing, yes. The others are just rubbish. Let's not lie in here. We don't like liars. Bogle was relegated, enough said. Bilal will be a difficult deal if other clubs like Spurs make a move. A swap deal, Connor. Elan for Bilal. Take it, mate. Take it. His best work is deeper. Leicester fans will tell you he's best as an 8. So where does he play and who does he replace? Can't buy him as a winger, and we aren't playing with a 10. I've said this before, Chris. I've said this before, mate. When it comes to El Khannouss, if you see him as a number 8, he will have all the attributes as a number 8 as well. The off-the-ball work will be there. It'll be a little bit box-to-box. The beautiful thing, I wouldn't get too bogged down, if I'm honest with you, Chris, in this whole 8 and number 10 chat. He's a player who likes to pick up the ball within the half spaces, very creative, created 45 chances for Leicester last season in the Premier League in his debut season at 20 years of age. For me, that's very decent. I'm not sure he had the protection. I'm not sure he had the facilitators to aid his game in terms of the overlaps, the overloads, which I believe would facilitate his game when you look at the amount of times he looks to crossfield pass. I think with a better number 9 in front of him, a more mobile number 9 in front of him, not Jamie Vardy with the greatest of respect, but somebody who can hold the ball up, get him into the game a little bit better as well, make it a little bit of a fluid front four. I think that works. We've missed someone since Pablo Hernandez like El Khannouss, in my opinion, Chris. I think he fits in seamlessly, and there's a reason Leeds are going in for him, in my opinion, anyway. Nakata says a great addition if we can get him rather now than later. He will improve. Scum Army says, as Southampton fan, can't believe that Fernandes is still. Hopefully, it won't be, mate. Hopefully, it won't be. But yeah, I don't think Leeds will be worrying about where he can fit in. You make someone like El Khannouss fit in my opinion. In my opinion. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Okay, now it's good to see Southampton fans in the building. This is one that we spoke about very, very early on when it comes to targets that I wanted Leeds to go in for, and it's Mateus Fernandes. Now, reports have surfaced at the weekend again that Leeds United are interested. This has gone very, very quiet with Southampton's proposed 50 million valuation. We already know that they've got a mass valuation on Tyler Diblin. Are they going to need to bring some money in for some star signings, who were going to be moved on at some stage? I think they're going to have to. Mateus Fernandes should not be playing in the Championship. And then once again, we're talking about these relegation things. Bilal El Khannouss, Mateus Fernandes, Rafinha is nearly relegated, guys. Okay. Jayden Bogle was relegated. He's a fantastic player for Leeds, one of our best. Ethan Ampadu is also relegated as well. In fact, get it in the chat. Hold on. I'm just going to check something. Hold on. Let's just have a quick check on something. I'm just going to see if this player's been relegated. No, he wasn't. Okay, let's move on. I thought he was, but yeah, no. I think when you're looking at it anyway, when you look at Fernandes, he's going to be at a top club. I think he's going to be at a top club. He's a top young talent, box to box, aggressive, very good on the ball. Can help from a defensive perspective and going forward as well. Works in that number 8 position. Amazing. Look, I would I like us to get another midfielder? Yes, I would. I don't know. Gruev goes out. You bring in someone like a Mateus Fernandes. I know the different players. One's a 6, one's an 8. But wow, wow, that would be such an improvement. And this is someone who, once again, facilitated by better players, which I think Leeds will have in the Premier League. Southampton, I don't think, recruited well. Obviously, there was the mire of the changing of managers as well. Let's bear this in mind. Mateus Fernandes did have to work under Ivan Juric for a period of time, which isn't going to aid anyone's development. But yeah, apparently Juventus are interested, which I'm not really worried about Juventus anymore. I'll be brutally honest with you guys. I think Juventus pull has diminished, but I also think their financial side of it is completely laughable sometimes when they offer bids for players. So I think Leeds will probably be able to offer more money as well. West Ham, it's going to be interesting to see how they move in the latter end of the window, which I think, in the next 2 weeks, you're probably going to see if West Ham are going to stay up or not. And then Leeds, but apparently the price value is reduced. They're not looking at 50 million quid. Apparently there's conversations right now about it being in and around sort of 20 to 25 million quid for Mateus Fernandes. That's what happens when it comes to the patience of a window. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But Fernandes, I think, will be a lovely, lovely addition. And do you know what you've got to think, everybody, as well? We're talking about Bilal El Khannouss. When we're talking about Bilal El Khannouss, when we're talking about Mateus Fernandes, they're 21. 21. And they've both proven themselves in the Premier League to be the best in class of their sides. Okay? Like we had with a certain Brazilian. Best in class. So the beautiful thing about getting these players in, and what Leeds United haven't done enough of, is bringing players like this in and selling them on for good market value, which is key to get more money back for them. They have a brilliant season at Leeds United. See you in a bit. Bring more money in. That's fine. No worries. Okay, apparently Leeds United over the weekend have had a bid from a championship side, an unnamed championship side, and apparently there's a couple for Mr. Karl Darlow. I don't want Karl to leave. I'll be honest with you. I feel very assured with this man, and he's been someone who I have been striving towards keeping him in the Leeds United side, getting him in Freeland Melee. I was campaigning for around about a year for getting him in. And I thought he did an excellent job. I like Karl. I thought he made a really good save at the weekend as well. It was down his throat, but he had to get himself off the ground and have really good reflexes with that. The header that went in, it was a good save from Karl. And then you saw who come on in the second half, nearly injured Gabby Goodmanson, flap at crosses or does not come out for crosses. And I'm thinking, Excuse my French, but fuck me. Get him gone. Get him gone. Get him gone. And Darlow's in there. I'd never worry about Darlow. Is he the best in class like we've just been speaking about? No. Does he make mistakes? No. I even think his distribution's better than Elan Melia. That's how far I'm going to go with this right now. I think Melia is just regressed that much. You know, the sliced left-footed kicks that he does when he brings the ball from his right foot over to his left foot, then slices it into the air consistently. And Leeds players really struggle to get any form of contact on it. Just no. But Darlow, I'd actually be upset if he moved on, to be honest with you. I think it'd be a bad move from Leeds. I think the experience within the ranks, he's played in the Premier League for Newcastle as well. I like him behind the scenes. I like that sign. If you're to move a player on, you know, as I've said, you know, objectively, I'd like us to bring in maybe a number two, a young lad who can learn off someone like Lucas Perry. And then Darlow is maybe fighting for that second spot, or the young lad goes into third spot, and then look, we can you know build and build and build. Or you know, you look at Lucas Perry, he's going to be in. He's only 27 years of age, so he's going to be in and around Leeds for a long time. Darlow, I think, is a second goalkeeper in the Premier League. Do you know what? A lot of you guys know that kind of with football opinions, I'm a little bit stubborn. I've got my thoughts, and I can be moved on them, but when it comes to just player analysis in general, like nothing really. I never see such massive improvement from a player or such a huge reduction from a player that I'm surprised. But with Karl Darlow, I'll be brutally honest with you, even just after the weekend, I'm looking at him thinking he'd be fine as number two. You know, if Lucas Perry is struggling a little bit, Darlow coming in, you know, if Leeds are playing a little bit more of a direct game, he's got good long kicking. We saw that at the weekend again. Not amazing at his short-term distribution, but he's okay. And it depends on how Leeds are playing. Are we trying to facilitate a possession-based system, or are we going to go a little bit more long? If we're going a little bit more long in the Premier League, I'll be more confident with Karl at the back. But yeah, I'm fine with him as number two. And if we let him go, I would be a little bit upset because I think he deserves a chance, Karl Darlow. And that's not me bringing sentiment into it. That's me bringing in, you know, a level of meritocracy. I think he deserves it, and he's better than he's miles better than Elan Melia. And he's a better option, isn't he, than Alex Cairns? So yeah, I have to say, I would be a little bit. Well, I don't think it'd be right for Leeds United to get rid of Karl Darlow. I think I'd like to keep hold of him, to be honest with you. Reminds me a little bit of a Joel Robles, you know, in the Premier League. Reminds me a little bit of that. Like I like Robles. Robles been in there, a little bit of experience, but I think Karl's been. I think I have to say, I think Karl's, when the pressure was so far on him last season, when Leeds had so much in terms of goalkeeper howlers, him coming in, he had to perform. Karl came in and was sound. Nobody was talking about the keeper anymore. Nobody. And when you're not talking about the keeper, you're in a really good spot. Coffee number two. Led Zepp. Yeah, you're probably right, mate. Me not been a fan of Melier. Morning from Ibiza. Morning, Gaz. How's it going? It's really sad to see what's happened with Melier. Meant to be the next Lloris, but has just gone backwards. Karl is more capable to be number two. Yeah, 100%. 100%. Darlow has proved himself. I agree. Victor Hansen linked with a move to a Prem. Fab tweet. Doubt it's us, but wonder who. Burnley. Burnley. Right. What are your thoughts? As of now, is this the likely team to be coming up against Everton right now, as we speak right now? Okay, so let's go through this team. I think Leeds are going to play 4-3-3 because I think they're going to try facilitate Longstaff in there. Or you go to a 4-2-3-1 and it's a three in midfield anyway, because Longstaff's just in that sort of 8 role. So it is a 3 in midfield anyway. So let's say if we've got this or a variation of this. Perry and net, Bogle, Rodon, Strout, Goodmanson, Ampadu, Stack, Longstaff. A lot of you might laugh at this. I tell you what, it's probably going to depend on James's fitness. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put James in there, but it does depend on James's fitness. It doesn't sound like Dan James will be back for the AC Milan game, but we'll put James in there. I was thinking more if he's not available, what will Farke do? Will he actually put Ramazani in there? But I think that is what comes up against Everton. And can I say, Let's have a look at this Everton team last night. Let's have a quick look at this Everton team last night that drew. Everton side. Let's have a quick look. Who did they play last night? Was it Man United? They played Man United last night, didn't they? So we've got Everton team lineup. Team lineup versus Man United. Let's have a quick look. Starting lineup 14 hours ago. Right, bada bing, bada boom. Right, okay, we're here. So, and I think it is going to be in and around this, to be honest with you. But this is kind of what I'm looking at when it comes to Everton. Like, I don't think this Everton side is beyond the realms of beating. And I think Leeds do have to beat this side. But let's just have a quick look. So look, you kind of look at that, right? Oh, it's annoying. It's just got third-party ad content in there. You look at John Pickford, Jake O'Brien, Tarkowski, Keane, Mikolenko. What does that scream? It screams that you kind of need a physical body up there, in my opinion. I don't think it should be Peru in this game at all. Gay, who's 35 years of age. Garner. Irogbenem. Alcaraz, who I rate. I think he's a good player. Beto up top, who's probably going to be replaced by Tieno Barry. And Iliman Njai, who I think is their best player. But when you look at that, and when you look at their bench, which is Dwight McNeil, Barry came on, that's it. That literally is it in terms of recognizable names. In my opinion, we a lot of people don't like the term must win. A lot of people don't like it. But for me, going into this game, I think Farke has to do this. I think in terms of quality in midfield, this is what I think he'll do in terms of this lineup right now that we're all looking at. I think when you're looking at James Garner in there, who is nowhere near as good as this man, I think you've got to do this. And arguably have Anton Stack. And I know he's not box to box, but he was showing at the weekend he could potentially be. I think you have the protectors of Tanaka in there. I think that as a team, everyone, that is not horrendous to face Everton. That's really not. When you look at their team, and I had a little bit of a look at this morning, I thought to myself, come on, Connor, like, we're talking about having signings in. I think we will get signings in. I think this will happen. But I still think even if we get signings in, this team comes in. I do, because I think there's going to have to be like an adaptation for, the Premier, the start of the game, and especially with them not having any preseason with Leeds. I think this is a good team. I think you've seen an improvement on Stroud. Perry, we've not seen a lot of yet. Bogle's been superb in preseason. So has Rodon. Gabby Goodmanson really impressed me at the weekend. Ethan has grown into preseason. Tanaka is just Tanaka. Just every time you see him play, his vertical build up, his eye for a pass, his calmness and assurance, his press resistance is massive. Anton Stack looked phenomenal, I thought, at the weekend. Nonto's been sharp in preseason. I've really liked the look of Nemecha. Nemecha, even at the weekend, I thought was brilliant. Genuinely, I thought holding the ball up, facilitating a style of play, but even when he gets the ball at his feet, we saw against Paderborn, very, very good at driving. And I think Dan James, obviously, you know what you're going to get with DJ in the transition. This is not a bad team, in my opinion. So it's going to be fascinating to see Leeds United up against Everton. But I think in that midfield, especially when you're looking at that Everton side, which will just get their side up again. Let's have a quick look at their side again. And if you've got, let's say, I don't know, let's say if you've got Garner and Gay in the midfield, I fancy Tanaka. And stack up against those two. As I say, I think Ampadu's been improving. I think Tanaka, Stack as a three in and around that, with probably one of them's going to have to marshal Alcaraz. Genuinely fancy our chances there big time. So it's not all as bad as people think, I think. Let's see what you guys are saying. Morning, Connor. Smash a like for the coolest and best channel around with the coolest host. Thank you, Nicholas. Love you, mate. Cheers for that. Everton weak at right back, an area of weakness to probe, even if they put O'Brien there. You obviously, Nathan Patterson, I think, is injured as well, isn't he? Tanaka at home, surely, Connor. I bet he plays Harrison. Oh, don't. Kirsch, stop it. Tanaka in for Longstaff. I agree with that. 2 weeks until the game. I think we'll get a minute of one signing between now and then. I think Longstaff starts. Al Largy, Peru come on whenever and are tiring. But this is what I mean. It's not, when you look at that visually, and this is what I had to do with Brownie the other day in terms of looking at the depth. And when you actually see it visually, it's slightly problematic. And Everton could get more players in. The likelihood is Tieno Barry comes in. By the way, we're just talking about Rodrigo Muniz, speaking about Bierith as well, Mika Bierith. Tieno Barry outperforms his XG for Villarreal last season. He's a very good player. 6'4", is going to be a monster, going to be a real task for Rodon and Strauch and Alcaraz and the likes of Iliman Ndiaye. Iliman Ndiaye is a superb player. Could arguably be the best player on the pitch when we play them. So he's that good. But Tieno Barry's going to bring those players into the game. So Leeds going to have a real task, but I don't think we are that far off them. I genuinely don't in terms of quality. Peru starts, no way Farke leaves him out. I disagree with that because Farke's left him out for primarily a lot of the preseason, actually started with the Mecha. And I think when you look at Jake O'Brien, you look at Tarkowski, if you're starting, we know what works with Peru. We know what works with Peru. This isn't going to work. If he's going to have to battle with centre-backs, it's not going to work. We know it's not. There's certain games that fit Joel Peru. Certain games. That is not a game against Everton, a very physical Everton side. Barry looks, you know what, this season. Fair enough, mate. Are you an Everton fan? But it's not a bad team. It's not a bad team, in my opinion. Not a bad team. So I think it's good to get that side on and just have a quick look at it. And I wanted to just speak on everybody, the situation of what we're in right now. I wanted to just talk to the camera and talk to you guys. And look, the reality of the situation, we mentioned this on a video the other day. I'm going to let this marinate a bit. Alf, I thought Strat was brilliant at the weekend, mate. I thought he was really good at the weekend. I thought every part of his game was pretty good, to be honest with you. But the reality of the situation is, when we talk about needle movers, right, and Leeds United have made bids for Habib Diarra this window, needle mover. He's Sunderland's best signing, in my opinion, even above Granit Xhaka. Habib Diarra is a needle mover. Rodrigo Muniz is a needle mover. You look at the players that we've got in, but then you look at El Khannouss, needle mover. Igor Pajau, needle mover. Now, the reason I'm using this is because for me, and you look at, I'm just going to bring in this again, and bearing in mind Arsenal were in for him as well. Not Darlow. Arsenal were in for him as well at one point and inquired about him as well. Spurs heavy, and Spurs still might go for this guy, by the way, which is a problem. But every single player here, you could argue, is a European prospect. When it comes to El Khannouss, if you're talking about the top 9 in the Premier League, whatever, I think he's a top 10 player. Muniz, for me, easy European player. Igor Pajau, European player, right? So when you're looking at everything else, when we're looking at Ipswich last year, who everyone was impressed by, they brought Delap in, they got Amari Hutchinson as well, 2 really good signings to the Premier League level, in my opinion. But risks. You have to risk to get players. Leeds are not the outstanding team. We're not. We're a newly promoted side, so you have to take risks. Ipswich took a risk and it paid off with the lap. Ipswich brought in Schmodix, Jack Clark, Ben Johnson, Jacob Greaves. I think they brought in Dar O'Shea, right? I don't mind Dar O'Shea, but these are the players that they brought in. Yeah, Jens Hughes, don't mind him at all, but Calvin Phillips. These are players that they brought in last window. And you look at Luton, barely brought anyone in apart from Ross Barkley. Sheffield United, and a poor window, and that was illustrated by their results and their final position. But over the last 2 seasons, the teams that have come up, I think, have had abysmal windows. I think Leicester had a good one. I think Southampton barely recruited any Premier League talent in terms of players that can make that jump. So you look at that, and then you look genuinely this is because I think Sunderland have done good business. So I'm not going to loop Sunderland into this. There's a lot of rawness with Sunderland, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. You look at Burnley, and what their marquee signings have been what? Armando Broja and Carl Walker. There's a lot of people talking about Victor Hansen. I think Victor Hansen is going to be that Burnley player. So I don't think Burnley are going to stay up based on that. You look to that Ipswich talent as well. They're not going to stay up based on that because you're effectively preparing for the Championship. What Leeds are doing is trying to get that next bracket. So that next bracket brings Leeds up and gets us into 17th. Because if you bring in players, in my opinion, like Armando Broja, if you bring players in like that, with how good this division is, it's not going to work. You bring in players like Tammy Abraham, it's not going to work. You have to bring in players of which are you're pretty assured when you look at the data pack, the stats packed on them. You look at them, you think they're going to transition into the Premier League, or they're already there and fit into this Leeds United side. It's going to work with the manager. But if you can target that high-level player and get them, like we did with Rafinha, like we did with Rutter when it came to potential, these players that we targeted and we got, that is how you stay in the division because the division's too good now. It's too good. So you have to reach for the stars. And this is what I was saying the other day. I was saying, look, the Niners need to get signings in, this, that, and the other. But the caveat to all of it, and it's not being a hypocrite, because they need to, Farke wasn't wrong. They need signings in. But the caveat to it all is you have to play the long game. Quality essentially demands patience. We brought in Atalanta last season on the 30th of August. I understand context is different, but Atalanta was our best player last season. Brought him in on the 30th of August. Brought Manor Solomon on the 28th of August. We'd already played 3 games by then. So the likelihood of it going to the end isn't that unlikely that Leeds haven't done it before, and you have to wait to get some of your better players in for those dominoes to fall. That is, I think, what's going to happen with Leeds. And as much as we want signings in now, as much as I was saying the other day, and I think you're all right as well by saying, look, Connor, we need these signings in before Everton. We need them in before Everton. I don't disagree. But I think a fully fit Leeds United side up against Everton, with, I think, one new signing that will come in by then, in my opinion anyway. I think we're going to be waiting on maybe a couple towards the back end of the window. I think Leeds will do all right. I think we'll be fine. But this whole notion that, that it's panic stations now, I don't feel like that. They need signings, but I don't feel like there's panic stations, because I sort of look at the squad now and I still think it's a good squad. They need to build on it. They have to build on it. We've seen that. But I know preseason is not a measure. We haven't lost in preseason. We now haven't lost in preseason in 2 years. And I know that's not a big deal. I completely get that. I understand that. And preseason isn't always a measure. But we did win, 4 games in preseason against very good opposition last season. And then we went into the assault of the championship last season, which saw us on 100 points. So I think there is a little bit of momentum. I think you do see the patterns of play. I think you see the on and off the ball work as well. I think in preseason, you've seen enough to say that we're going to be solid. So I think we're going to be solid. Could be wrong, and we're going to get battered in some games. We all know that. But I think on what I've watched, I'm thinking Leeds are all right at the back. There was a strong Man United side against us. Man United have licked a few teams up this preseason. I thought we looked pretty strong against them. I didn't think in any phase we were, we're in trouble. We're getting battered here. We're getting overrun. They had a portion of the game. We had a portion of the game. Villarreal at the weekend, I thought they were very good opposition. I thought they were very good. I thought their goal was excellent. We stayed in the game. They're supposed to finish in Europe this season. I get it's preseason. You can't take too much out of it. But I think on the 2nd of August, which is when the game was played, seeing certain patterns, seeing certain on and off the ball work, certain relationships, that is something that you can see from preseason, in my opinion. So let's have a look. Do you think there is ever a universe where we go and get Rutter? I don't, mate. I think it'd be too much money. We didn't have any buyback on him. Michael says, but Connor, what Leeds United don't have is a high level 10 and 9. But Michael, but then what do you want them to do? Do you want them to just go out and get like an Armando Broja and then go out and get, a Brownhill and you know what I mean? I understand I get it. I completely get it. But we have to get that next bracket to be in that next bracket. You simply have to do it. If you go and get players who are easy to get in, like your Sebastian Bornaus, like your Lucas Nemechas, if you go and do that, they're easy to do. It's pretty simple. Your Muniz, your Pajau, your El Khannouss, they're all going to take time because there are other clubs, bigger clubs than us, all in for them and trying to convince them as well. You've got to be patient. You've got to play the long game. We played the long game with Tanaka. We played the long game with Solomon. It was us and Ajax for Solomon, wasn't it? For about 2 weeks. We managed to play the long game and get him in. I get it's different context. It's the Premier League. I completely understand that. But if you want that next bracket player, which is going to keep us up, you can go and get your bro, yeah? You can go and get players like that. That's fine. You can do that. You can do that like that easily. Leeds could probably have gone and got Tammy Abraham pretty simply this window. But if you go in for that next level, you've got to be able to play that patient game because it's going to take it's going to take time. That is just, unfortunately, that is just where we're at right now. So yeah, guys, we've got 1,600 of you in the building. We've got 622 likes. Do us a favor, slap that like button up, guys. And we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for your comments in here. We're going to be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. and then we have White Noise with Brownie at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Everybody, the season is coming around the corner. I've got my championship predictions, which I'm going to be doing on the second channel. If anybody's interested in that, go subscribe to that. That should be out later on today. If you're interested in some general content, I'm Connor McGilligan. This is the